welcome, Theresa. Thank you so much for joining us during EU Influencer. I would love to talk to you about COVID-19, access to vaccines, and the roles that influencers can play. And my first question is, in the US, the White House is paying influencers, specifically on TikTok and Instagram, to do campaigns so that more young people join in and get vaccinated. And also different states in the US are working with micro-influencers to do campaigns around the topic. So I'm wondering, what do you think? Can influencers play a positive role getting people vaccinated, specific demographics, etc.?
There was a recent study published by Harvard stating that the micro-influencer effect was extremely effective, far more effective than big-name stars who are promoting vaccination. So the micro-influencer effect between 1,000 and 1 million followers, and they seem to be more believable and people trust them. So, and they can speak to their immediate community. So it has been extremely beneficial. We've seen that in the United States in some Spanish-speaking communities, for example, in California. So that has been a huge improvement, and they've really had community outreach. So I think that's been a very positive development.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. How about the EU? Should we work here? Should we work with influencers too? Do you see a role for yourself here?
I think in the EU, it's a question of mandates and also language. I mean, I looked at some of the EU tweets on these things, and they have very little circulation. I saw, for example, like 43 retweets. So I think that language, community, all of this is very important. So I think it's very important to take place on the national level in order to reach out to the communities in the language that they understand, and even kind of humor that's appropriate for them. For example, this summer I was traveling through France and Italy, and in Italy they have this vaccine campaign like this, but in the UK that's kind of a swear. So it's very much important to be tailored to the audience, and I think that individual member states need to do it themselves, and also even smaller communities need to do that. So I think the EU can kind of set an agenda to try to promote this, but I think it's most important that it's very tailor-made to the special community needs.
Very good point. So you don't see a role for yourself in this then?
Well, I think I play a role in one respect in trying to kind of put the kibosh on this kind of vaccine diplomacy. We've seen a lot of Russia, China, a tsunami of disinformation in regard to various vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer, for example. They tried to show that these were ineffective, people died from them, really to, create a lot of vaccine hesitancy. This has been so effective that this is actually boomeranged on President Putin, because vaccine hesitancy in Russia is extremely high. So he has his own domestic problems because of that. So we've seen kind of a battle of the narratives, which High Representative Joseph Borrell outlined early on during the COVID-19 pandemic. He talked about these narratives, and the COVID vaccine narrative is also part of that, because China used it as a way to promote this kind of positive vaccine diplomacy to try to distract the public from thinking about the origins of COVID-19. So I think that it's important for Europe to understand which vaccines are safe, and we have institutions that do test them, and so we know that the ones that are approved by the EU are very safe. And of course, there are some, there have been some people who have died, but that's not really vaccine related. It could have been other things. So I think that the negative loop needs to be clarified, and I think it's very important for people. We've seen in our own community here in Belgium, we have the Flemish and we have the Walloons. And so there's vaccine hesitancy in one side, and the Flemish, for example, are very much embracing it. So you can have one country and two very different approaches to the vaccine. So I think that it's so important that these micro-influencers kind of tailor-make a message to their immediate communities, and it's good for everybody in the EU.
100%. Thank you so much. So talking about vaccine diplomacy, Chinese and Russian vaccines are used not only to protect against COVID or to spread false information about foreign, American or European vaccines, but also for image repair and expanding power ambitions. So reports from both the US and British governments have revealed how Russia has engaged in efforts to call into question the safety, as you say, through using social media specifically, also other communication. So what do you think about this?
Well, the EU had something called EU versus disinfo. And when the pandemic began, they only had 2 people working there. So that's really, really underfunded. So I think that it's understood now that they need more people who can speak Chinese. And so they've hired 3 more people with that. They have, if I understand correctly, 9 people working on this now. It's something, it's better than nothing. But if you look at the deep pockets and the amount of people working on this in both Russia and China, it's just a shadow. So I think that they need a clear mandate to work on this. It's extremely important, as we've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, to have clear communications. And the tsunami of misinformation really created a lot of chaos early on, and that helped COVID-19 spread.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your contributions today.